with Gwyn. Gwyn runs a wonderful cohort-based course called Breakthrough Facilitation. So for all your facilitation needs, come to Gwyn. And Gwyn, we're going to step through a little bit of your evolution of your home studio, if you will, your home. I guess we're going to call it a home studio because every day we're in the world where we need to come across professional over Zoom. You're in Spain, Barcelona, Spain. I'm in San Francisco, California. And this is a pretty typical setup that you started with, where you have a lamp to your, I think it's to your left, right? And you're on your MacBook laptop using that as the camera. And I think, have you chosen, I'm going to ask you now, have you chosen the audio of the MacBook microphone? If you could do that for me.
Yeah, it's the MacBook mic, camera, cool, and a lamp in my room. It's nighttime here.
And I love what you had told me before when you said that you thought that production quality didn't matter, right? Please share your thoughts on what you thought at that point.
I do a lot of virtual facilitation. I do a lot of work on Zoom. Even before the pandemic, I was doing a lot of remote working. And when I switched my virtual facilitation online, I was way more focused on how do you use Zoom and these virtual meetings to create connection and kind of bring the facilitation skills into the room. I was not paying attention to the quality of the sound or the light. And I think inside I kind of felt like that was secondary. It wasn't actually as important as some of the other parts of the virtual facilitation. So I just didn't really pay that much attention to it. And then it really was you who started cueing me into, the importance of the production quality. So being the sound, the camera, and the lights. And, obviously, we think about our Zoom backgrounds and this and that. But those three things in terms of the production quality, it's actually made a big difference. And I've made investments. I realized also it doesn't cost a lot to make some very simple improvements, and you come off more professionally. Better participant experience when the host has, some good quality, production quality. And the other thing I learned is that it helps connection. A really good mic actually helps your participants connect with you. So
speaking of which, can you switch and then please continue? I want to hear more, but I would love that since you brought up mic. If you could change to I think you have an external mic there.
I do.
And
so
let's see if we can hear the difference.
So this is my external mic. Can you hear the difference between?
Hugely, yes.
Huge difference. Okay, is that the right volume level? This is it's
probably a little hot. I would turn it down a little bit.
Turn it down a little bit.
That's fine.
Okay.
The physics of a mic is always the closer it is to your mouth, the better it sounds. And so generally a fist or an apple is a good distance, or you can even go as far as like a hang 10 or like a little, if you have a banana for scale, that's probably the furthest you want to be away from your mic. Please
Great.
continue.
Okay. So I might be even a little close here. I'm like a hang 10 away.
It's good.
All right.
No, you were saying that you made the mic, you got the mic and you found that to be a huge difference or big difference in, I would call this accelerating connection.
Yes. Yeah. It almost makes you feel as a participant, if the sound quality is really good, that you're almost like in the same room as the person. And that gives you that closeness.
That's right. And I would always say sound is always paramount. Sound is always number one, because if you've ever watched like a streaming video online and the sound isn't working, you don't even bother watching. Whereas if you can still hear it, but you can't see it, you can still actually glean what's happening and what's going on. Yeah. So that's why sound is always paramount. What's the next thing we worked on, Gwyn? Was it lighting or camera? Either one. I'm happy to go either way.
Okay. So I think it was lighting.
Okay.
Lighting was the next one.
So what did you get?
So I originally got a ring light, 20 euros on Amazon, with the little, place for your camera to go in the middle. The thing is, like, I use my laptop. So I was just using the ring light without putting my camera in the middle, and it was just to one side. So I had the ring light over here. The light wasn't very nice. It was kind of like a white, really, really white light. I missed the kind of warmth, and it was just shadowing kind of one side of my face. And if I had it in front of me, then you could see it in the reflection behind me. You could see it in the reflection in my glasses. So I didn't like the ring light. What's your view on that?
I agree with that, because I feel like, I know ring lights are very popular, but ring lights are ideal for makeup artists. It's ideal for that kind of it's a kind of a look, but I know makeup artists are also very big influencers, and they peddle what they can peddle, and they hope that you buy. But I don't feel that is ideal, because essentially what you've just described is what I call a harsh light all the way around. It's not softened or diffused. Even the lamp that is lighting you right now. Can you show the picture from your phone? I think you took a picture earlier. Where,
so I just have a very simple, one of those like IKEA lamps. I think you can see it a little bit better like that.
Kind of see we can see a little cone as a glass, and it diffuses the light, so it softens it out. Whereas a hard light would be kind of like a bare bulb, where you would see, and excuse me for saying, let's say the wrinkles on your face. You don't have any wrinkles, but
very kind of you.
For others who have wrinkles, you would see the pronouncement, because the light's so harsh, it actually makes the shadows stand out more, and therefore makes your age wrinkles, they stand out more because of that. So women typically, they want more beauty lighting, so you always want to fill in those shadows with light. And I think you actually chose a very good lighting setup. Do you want to turn that on?
Sure. Okay.
Already I can see a bigger difference with, you switched off the lamp and you've actually turned on two little soft boxes with lights inside with a big kind of diffusion panel. One which we can see in the reflection of your artwork in the back. We're also going to be trying to get rid of that later for Gwen. And this already seems much brighter, much more kind of, it feels like you're more present, and as opposed to like it's late night in your study, kind of a vibe.
Yeah.
And the next thing we did, I think you got a new camera. So right now we're seeing you through your MacBook camera. Can you switch to the other camera that you got, which I think is like a Logitech Brio, I think you got?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Already so much better. One thing to highlight and notice is that with your MacBook at a normal desk, you're looking down to your MacBook, and therefore the camera is looking down, up at you. And here it feels like we're looking eye to eye. We're kind of just at each other, meeting each other. That's generally how humans would look at each other like this. The only thing that throws us all off is whenever you meet anyone from the internet in real life, you're always surprised at how tall or short they are. And that is natural because we're used to seeing and meeting them in this kind of very, this is ideal. This is kind of a natural, like, we can't perceive height actually this way. We can't, but that's all right. But what we do feel is we see eye to eye and we have a good sense of connection. One adjustment I would make here, Gwen, is that you have a little bit more headroom. And so you can think like 2-3 fingers or something like that. Just kind of general, like this is very general. Look at that. You just lowered your chair. That's it. That was it. It's great.
That was it.
Take up more
okay.
of the room,
so I've got
more of the frame. Yeah. 2 or 3 fingers is good enough.
2 or 3 fingers. Okay.
It's very much more of a feeling than it is a steadfast rule, but you can kind of feel when Gwen had a little bit more headroom, and now this feels more present. And it does also feel, some people make the mistake of also getting too close. I know I'm out of focus, but there we go. It's better. But some people make the feel, and then this is a bit, this should feel awkward to you, Gwen. Like this should feel like I'm close talking.
Unless you're telling me a secret. Are you telling me a secret?
Right. But then you want to whisper, you want to say that. But in general, having a good amount of body language to show is actually really important. And it feels a normal conversation at distance without triggering any of our kind of like our internal alarms. And when I said close talking, I think a lot of you perhaps maybe felt that, like, oh yeah, I know what it feels like from a close talker. You just kind of need a little bit of space here. But that that is important in this kind of angle as well. So not only do we have you raised the camera up to what feels like eye level, generally like a Logitech Brio, they've done the work, they've done the research to make sure that like, okay, this is a good comfortable height for the average person who sticks a monitor, I don't know, like 16 to 18 inches away from their face, that this is an ideal kind of range. It's kind of a zoom range, but a good focal length for that. And how would you say, Gwen, like now upgrading to this, now notice her mic isn't in view anymore, right? But we still get the benefits of sound, and it's probably maybe about the banana length away. I think
it is,
perhaps.
yeah, it is a banana length away. It's exactly that, yeah.
But I love this because it's the magic, it's the invisibility of you deliver great sound, and you don't have to look like you work at a radio station.
Right. So would
Yes.
you be, this came up actually the other day, do you like seeing the mic in the screen, or you don't like seeing the mic in the screen?
I think it's a choice, right? It's a choice. I think everything we do here is a choice. When I do see it, because I'm within this kind of industry of presentation and stuff, I can know, oh, that's I know the mic model, usually Shure SM7B. I can tell by how the mic is being held, usually on an arm, a boom arm or a mic arm, where it's kind of coming into the frame. I like to make my decisions of what I choose and put in my frame and not have it decided for me. Because I remember I would get comments on like, oh, you look so professional. Oh, it's always along those lines. And I realized it's nice to receive a compliment. I get that, but actually it was a distraction. It was a distraction to my audience, it was a distraction for them to connect, but then the topic of conversation really quickly changed to, oh, what kind of mic is that? Oh, what do you do with that? And that's not what I wanted out of the conversation. I wanted to just be able to facilitate and be able to talk and share and whatever the topic was at hand. And that is my opinion. Now it's a choice. If that's what you do want to talk about, then by all means, yes, throw it in there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have a sense of feeling of like, well, I spent so much money on this. I want to show people that I've spent money on this, and you could do that. That's your choice. But my choice is I like a distraction-free look.
Yeah.
While achieving the best quality. It's just, that's my take on whether to show or not, because I come from a world of photography and portraiture. And one thing about portraiture is when you add a background, you add a story. So like, I'm going to use your example because we're looking at you, is you have pieces of artwork. There's definitely a theme of like sun and moon there. I think it's moon. I want to say it's moon. And you have like cushy couch cushions. That's a very difficult phrase to say next to you. So it feels okay, homely. You have a wonderful plant over your left shoulder and books galore. I could probably just stop and just kind of quickly try and read and get a sense of like, what kind of things and topics does Gwen like to see or read about, and glean as much information about you as I can from your background. That's why we say when you add a background, you add a story. And the great thing is, Gwen, you actually get to design and choose the story. So as you become more aware of what is in your background, you get to choose and even design what you want there.
Consciously or subconsciously, I think we all are looking, scanning in the background just to see if we can find out a little bit more about this person who we're on screen with. Now, a couple of questions. I actually did do a little kind of redo on my background before I was facing this way. I couldn't manipulate any of the background over here because I have closets. And so all it was the white closet background, which is fine, but I wanted something a little bit more interesting. So
I have a white door that's vexing me right now. This white door.
The white door.
I need to take that into the garage and paint it black, but I will. I understand. I feel your feelings.
So for somebody who might not have a lot of like stretch space as far as like what they have behind them, what would be your advice? Like, so for example, what if you only have like a white wall behind you and actually you can't really do anything about it because somebody won't let you hang anything on the wall or whatever it is? Would you then
share your example that you've chosen behind your right shoulder, which is I want to say it's like a base potted plant. I'm not sure the exact vernacular to use, but it's a nice floor standing plant that is tall.
Yeah.
I think that is a great solution. So
Mhm.
that way it's not permanent, but at least it adds some texture. And I think that's one thing I'm lacking. I'm hunting down an elephant leaf freestanding plant. Probably not real. I think I'll have to go with the artificial route, but I love it because of its imposingness of it, and to kind of fill space. And I love something that says elephant. I think they call elephant ears.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's what they
I
call it.
know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's one great solution. I think artwork is also great. If you can't hang anything, be creative and be you. And so I think plants always going to be great. Bookshelf, like you have, great. If it's in front of the door, like in this situation, then sometimes maybe look at how you can adjust things in the room. Like here I have it. I believe the words are kitty cat corner,
Yeah.
where my camera and everything is in one corner, and the opposite corner is actually just to get more depth. This is the longest distance in a room is going to be from corner to corner. But perhaps try and look at other angles of your room too. I'm not completely opposed to what say a flat, which is what you have, which is you're against the wall, you put the camera there, and you have another wall behind you. And so therefore it's say flat or perpendicular. It's parallel walls, not perpendicular.
Yeah.
Parallel walls. I'm not opposed to that. I think that's fine. I think most people do it that way. And it's more of, again, it's just a choice of like, how dynamic do you want to place things in your room? I found this to be the most versatile positioning of because this is also where I work. This is not just the studio. This is actually where I sit down, I work, I write. So it's very practical to be a home studio that is not just a home studio, that it's also my home office. So if anything, we should call this a home office studio.
The home office studio. I think that's probably where most people are at, unless you're, doing a lot of YouTube recordings and all this kind of stuff. But I'm imagining that the average, virtual facilitator out there is working in the same space as they're, recording, and maybe there's some different angles, you can work with. I also noticed that your background is blurred. So you've got that kind of depth of field effect.
That's right.
So that leads me to another question. I don't even know on this camera if I can do that depth of field effect. I know that on Zoom, I can change my settings so that I have that blurred background. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
So I should say this is also dangerous, because now we talked about earlier, Gwen, you mentioned that it didn't cost a lot of money to be able to get to this level where you're at. And it just took a few intentional purchases, if you will, that didn't break the bank. This will break your bank.
Okay.
This will break your bank. Just know this. If you want the real feeling, this will break the bank. And because I'm using I use this camera, guys, for filmmaking. So this is when the pandemic hit, I'm like, well, let me just set it up as a webcam, see how it goes. This specific model, I'm not recommending this. I'm not recommending it, and I'll tell you why. It's this specific model is a Panasonic S1 camera. Now it's a full frame camera. I think at the time, $2,500. That's just for the body. That's just for the camera body. This is without a lens. And then this lens I have is a Sigma 35mm f1.2. I know I just said a lot of jargony things. And I don't even remember the price. I probably don't want to remember the price because it was probably
you erased it from your memory.
Yes, I try to do that with all the bad memories in my life. And it's set at the widest aperture, as in it's set at the widest, which is 1.2 here. And if you notice, if I quickly move it in and out, it won't be able to track me as far as focus. And I'm okay with that because it's something I already had. I find it to be great in all other aspects, like running as a webcam. It doesn't overheat because some of the Sonys, they do that. But I'm okay with that it being not even being the best autofocus, because I'm able to just get what I can out of it. And then when I need to make films or YouTube videos, I can take it out and I can use it. So I try and keep things very practical here. Now, ideally, I just have one camera that sits there and is great at autofocus and gives me a nice depth of field and doesn't cost me too much money because it's just going to sit here as a webcam. I could do that. It just complicates things a lot more, Gwen. There's a lot more things happening here where setting also the color as well, the color profiles, you kind of dive into a very deep world. I'm not trying to talk anyone out of it, because if you do want this kind of look,
Yeah.
this is like the real look with physics, with a proper like lens that is, we call a fast lens. This f1.2 number is fast.
Yeah.
And then the camera being called full frame sensor, meaning the image area that it captures is quite large.
Mhm.
And you can buy cameras that have a smaller image area, and it's not as expensive. And unless you get a very, very quick lens, which they usually don't exist and they're very expensive, your depth of field, like your amount of creaminess, because that's where the word bokeh comes from. It's actually a Japanese word, bokeh, because it's a translation of an English word called bouquet. So we all know a bouquet of flowers. So the Japanese, they would describe this blurriness as like, oh, look at this lovely, the quality of the bouquet. And so then now we say bokeh because we're saying what the Japanese are saying because they observed it. It's hilarious because it's based on an English word that we're now using the Japanese word to describe what they described as an English word. But they would rate the quality of the creaminess of the background. That's what they looked at. I think another really good way of doing this is actually your own iPhone. And the reason why is because the computational photography in one of these guys in the cameras has gotten really good. And Apple has, I believe in the latest operating system of Ventura, which came out, we're recording this on Wednesday, it came out 2 days ago. So if you have a Mac with the latest operating system and you get this little, I think a Belkin makes a little product that you can hang, that hangs just off the top of your laptop and it holds it there. And you can use your iPhone as a webcam.
Okay.
And I think it's amazing. I think the quality for that is amazing. And because I think there have been other apps that, you know, work with your phone and work on your desktop, Mac and Windows, to be able to use your iPhone or phone camera as a webcam. And generally those are quite good. I'm going to trust Apple a little bit more because they're the ones that kind of, you know, they just built the phone and the software and the OS and the hardware that I'm using for the desktop. They just built everything. So they're going to have an unfair advantage in making that. But I do feel that that is the best quality. And generally you already have your iPhone. So it's not an extra spend just for the phones. But I feel it's the best quality before stepping up to using a professional camera as your webcam.
It's great because there's a real spectrum, you know, of like where you want to be in terms of the production quality. What do you think of this as opposed to what I had before? What's your professional view on that? This or this?
You're using the blurred background instance on Zoom or insert option, I should say. And I think some people may need that for privacy as well. Like, you know, maybe it's not in place or whatever. And then that's a necessary thing that you've got to do. But I want people to notice on your image, Gwen, is that you're actually pretty, like my hair is crazy, right? If I did, I mean, if I'll just turn it on mine, if I can turn it on, it's going to look a little silly, I feel. How's it? Is that silly enough? Does it look silly?
I don't notice I see what you mean because it blurs some of the hair. So it's not ideal. It's not going to be perfect. The only way you can improve this is if you had a green screen behind you, and but then you wouldn't be using blur my background. You'd be using a background replacement. But how do I feel about it? But I think it's okay. It's very obvious that that's what is happening, as in it will never replace a proper like DSLR camera depth of field. Also, this is a small thing, but it does still matter to me. The amount of, let's say, tax, and what I mean by tax is the computer processing that's happening on your computer right now to figure that out and do that. It's your computer's actually working a little bit harder to do that. And so if you need that, fine. But I actually think in your terms of your background, the presentation, everything, much more beautiful this way than say the blur is not adding anything there, unless you needed to hide your mess. Or you don't want actually people like me looking into your background and, you know, kind of seeing things in your personal life that you don't necessarily want to share with the Zoom world, right? So that's another benefit to it. What do you think of virtual backgrounds in general? So Here, I'll go to the beach.
I think similar to the blur background, I think, again, it's a choice, right? It is, I would probably choose something that is, let me see if I have anything interesting that I can kind of whip out. I would choose something that's relevant. So don't stick with the basic ones that come with it. In fact, what I do is I try and delete as many as I can. Zoom doesn't let you delete all of them, by the way, but I try and delete as many of them as I can. And instead, I like to have a little bit of fun, which if I was going to put myself here, like, there you go, I'm a meme. You guys know that one? Sometimes, this is fine. If you guys know this meme as well, I think these are more fun. And this one is a little bit, if it's a bit more of a, I think, trivia question, if you can spot where this comes from. I won't give you the answer. I'll just let it hang there. But you can do something fun like that. I think it's fine. I think it's also a form of expression as well. And you can, I've seen useful ones where people have their Twitter handles there or their brand name and I think that's great, especially if, let's say you're working with a remote team and everyone's remote, and for example, Lillian, your course manager, and Pam as well. So what if you had made a static background, but you had the Breakthrough Facilitation logo, you had the Twitter handle so that they can always be reached out to that way or seen that way. And perhaps even location would be nice to put there. That, I know Lillian's in Nairobi, Kenya. Pam, where's Pam? Pam, I can't
Is in
remember.
Valencia.
She's in Valencia, so not too far away. And you're in Barcelona, Spain, and you can have that there. And I've seen that as a useful way of relaying information when, say, on Zoom, because when you are presenting on Zoom or speaking, it's always an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's why this matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on what the context is. Yeah, I've also seen people use those virtual backgrounds in really neat ways to have a little fun. Like you said, it's another form of expression. Maybe we all, choose the virtual background, which is our like happy moment or something, or you choose a virtual background. I think one of the Breakthrough Facilitation participants, Andrew, used the same background to unite as a connecting thread, to what was going on. So again, it kind of comes back to what you were saying before, like choices, and intention, when it comes to facilitation. What is your intention? Is your intention to just do it for the sake of doing it? Or is there some kind of tie into, the theme that you're working on, or, your intention is to connect the group. So this is one way that you're a tool that you have that you could design some fun activity around.
Yes. I like to use the word once you've made a choice and you've set kind of the intention, because the word I like to use is message. What is your message? What is the message you want to send? For example, I just want a hug. Sometimes you just need a hug, right? And this is just a quick example of like how we can use the tools, how we can use our tech and what's available and afforded to us with virtual backgrounds, with everything that we have to communicate and send a message. Like you giggled at that, what I just did, right? And in a way, this is for me, this is what I consider a performance, right? Like I showed and not told that I needed a hug, and you could kind of see my little pink bear just hugging me. Yeah. It's just an example of how we can use and play with this medium to do fun things as well, not just be so static and boring.
Exactly. And I think that needs to be the thumbnail for this video. You're getting a nice big fuzzy hug.
Thank you, Gwyn.
Great, well, I feel already way more confident and knowledgeable about all these things having to do with sound and light and camera. So thanks so much, Karaminder.
Gwyn, now what do you think of production levels? Because you shared with us before what you used to think about production. Yeah. Now what do you think about production less than a year later, I think? Yeah.
No, I think production is a really key part of virtual facilitation. And I feel like just having the basics, because there are people with much more sophisticated setups than I have. The truth be told, for what I'm willing to pay, I think I can get to at least the minimum viable, decent production effect or whatever on my Zoom calls. And it makes me feel more confident. It makes me feel I'm not second guessing, oh, is the light right, or is there enough light, or is there, is my mic, I've kind of gone through those questions. I've invested a little bit just to bump it up a little bit, and I'm happy.
This has helped me with connecting and having connections over the internet. And we have never met in person, yet we are friends. We have seen each other. We have hung out. I've been in your course. You've been in my course. And all of this stuff, it is stuff at the end of the day. It's just a list of stuff you can just spend money and buy. But once you put it together, and then you know why you put it together, and you're actually using it, I feel like it all blurs away. And then we're still left with, we remember the interactions that we had and the things we talked about, even though we were never in the same room.
Sometimes the screen can almost feel like it's melting away. That's how I feel. And that's with good production quality. I think that's even more the case.
Gwyn, as people want to know more about Breakthrough Facilitation, your outstanding CBC course, where can they go?
They can go to breakthrough-facilitation.com. And I also have a free weekly newsletter called The Quest. And you can get that at gwynwansbrough.com/newsletter. Your
newsletter is so kick-ass. And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass or anything like that. It really is a great resource it's a great resource for me, who is always trying to look for the edge or kind of newer, different ideas about facilitation. And I think it's a must subscribe for anyone who is hosting and running, say, Zoom calls and facilitating on the regular. It's a great resource, and it's free. Did I say it's free? It's free. Resource is free. It's great.
And Karaminder, so you've got a course coming up.
That's
Tell
right.
us about your course.
It is called,
what's it called?
Course Charisma. Yeah, it's Course Charisma. It's the premiere, I guess, the first running of it. And it covers, actually, we only really talked about one of the 4 pillars that I cover. And this pillar we kind of talked about is home studio. But I also cover how to create your visual aids for maximum impact and engagement, so that it's fun for people who are in your audience. I also talk about, and we also, third pillars we talk about is session design, how to design a session from beginning to end for kind of the most experiential learning, the best learning. I love learning that is almost tricked, as in almost like I did something and it was so much fun, I had no idea I was learning. It's almost like pseudo learning, but I like to like ninja learning, if you will. But that's session design. And lastly, this is the most important one, is putting all of this together so that it is a performance. Right? We don't realize, we don't understand the amount that everything put together is an impression. We are kind of a living, speaking brand, if you will, nowadays, as we're influencers, teachers, instructors, course creators, that it's so important that you look at everything put together, and then the magic is always in the performance. And is, if you want a future, you've got to get this stuff right. You got to build in some charisma into your course. That's what I do. The website, coursecharisma.academy. We'll also put that in the notes as well.
Brilliant. This has been so fun. This has been so fun. You just clarified all kinds of doubts that I had in my mind. So thank you for that.
So good. And we're going to share this with everybody.
That's all right.
I'll stop recording now.